Hey guys, Fox here from Tall Guys TCG, where you don't have to be tall, but you do have to live by them all. Thought I'd bring you a commander deck profile today. This is actually kind of a special deck profile. It's going to be the deck I'm running for Jake and Joel's Commander League. So basically how it works is you have to use a pre-con commander, or a pre-con deck, and you choose a legendary creature obviously from that deck, but each week you can change the creature. The first week there's a $100 budget, so every card, not including basic lands, has to be under $100, and every week you get another $50 to add to that budget. The league lasts a month and there's prizes, so it's pretty cool. I chose Strefan obviously because if you guys know me, I love the vampire deck. I love that they went away from Edgar Markov because it was oppressive and I just wasn't a fan of the deck. We'll go right into it. If you guys are curious what I took out to get it down to that value, like what I had him there before, I took out a Lightning Greaves, a Henny because he was like 12, a Reckless Fireweaver because he was 8, Olivia was like 12, a Cemetery was like 6 or 4. They only count the lowest cost version of the card, even though I have like the pretty ones. Soren, because he was like 8. Deluge was over 20. Phyrexian Arena was over 20. If you've seen on my personal channel, I had the collection black, that's why I have those. Bolas's Citadel was like 6 to 8. Herald's Horn was 8. Talking to Him as Myers 4 right now, even though it was like 2 a week ago. Curse of Opulence was over 10. Sanctum of Stone Fangs, no idea why, $5. Reanimate from the collection was like $8 too. So it was like at least probably about $100 I cut from the deck, maybe if not more, which is crazy. So getting into the commander, it's Strefan Maurer Progenitor. A lot of you probably know what this does. It came out in the last set, Crimson Vow, the pre-cons. What he does is he has flying. He's a 3/2. At the beginning of your end phase, you create a blood token for each person who lost life, includes yourself. The blood token is an artifact. You pay 1, tap it, discard a card, sacrifice it, and draw a card. So it helps you cycle, which is really cool. A lot of creatures utilize this blood token because obviously they're blind vampires. It would suck if they didn't use it. And his other ability is when he attacks, you can sacrifice 2 blood tokens, put a vampire creature from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. So really good, helps you cheat out your big vampires. Really cool that vampire's blood, it's really on theme. Really cool, really interesting. Helps you get big dumb vampires out. Just really great card. I actually have 3 of it because you get 2 in the pre-con, and I pulled 1 out of the Crimson Vow box. My buddy Nick got me, so pretty cool. And then for the only non-vampire creatures running in the deck, oddly enough, we are playing a Delina Wild Mage. This is a new card. When I took out one of these like 15 cards that I showed you guys before, I put her in. She's an elf shaman from the D&D set. She says whenever she attacks, you choose target creature you control and then roll a d20. If you get a 1 to 14, you create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the creature, except it's not legendary, and you exile it at the end of combat, or you create one of those tokens and then roll again. So you can possibly just keep going and keep creating more and more copies of the creature that you choose. So I mean, theoretically you could go infinite. It's probably impossible, but yeah, really good card. And the Marionette Master, really good. He has Fabricate 3, so he comes in with 3 1/1 counters, or you can create 3 1/1 servos, which you would never do, because the second ability says whenever an artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to his power. So when you put the 3/1 counters on him, he goes up to 4 power. So every time you either put a blood token from Strefan's ability into the grave, or from any of your creature's abilities, or just using the blood token's ability itself, you're dealing 4 to an opponent. So it adds up really quickly. Really great card. Then for our low cost vampires, we're an Ange, Maid of Dishonor. She says whenever she or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, you create a blood token. It only triggers once each turn, but it gets you 1 additional blood token, which is really good. You pay 2, sacrifice another creature, or a blood token. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. So if you have your Strefan out on the field, that guarantees you 3 blood tokens, which is really, really good. See, I do have a lot of the showcase arts. It's just because I got the box that comes out. Shout out to Nick if you're watching the video. Then we're running one of the Cordial Vampire. Another card that came back in that I had cut when I was building the deck. But when you're on a budget, cards like these do come back in. And he's actually working out really well. I tested a couple games on Spell Table. Whenever he or another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. So pumps up your creatures. They get really big, really quick. Before, it was kind of a artifacts, stack your artifacts, deal a bunch of damage with artifact damage triggers with the Reckless Fireweaver, but now it's kind of swung out with big vampires, so he really helps with that aspect. Then we're running Florian, Valderon, Skyon. He has First Strike, and at the beginning of your post-combat phase, you look at the top X cards of your deck, where X is the amount of damage you have dealt that combat, or basically what opponents have taken, but it's the amount of damage you've dealt. Look at the top cards of your library equal to that. Exile 1 of them and you can play it this turn. So it's pseudo card draw, really good. Most times you're going to be getting at least 3 because you usually put your Strefan in play first. Call him out with your Strefan if you don't have anything else. Boom, check your top 3. Play a free card. Really good. And then just free draw power. Dust Legion Zealot. When he comes onto the battlefield, lose a life and draw a card. Helps get you an extra blood token. Draws you a card. Does everything you want to do in the deck, and he's a vampire. A lot of times you won't bring him with Strefan. You're just playing for 2. This is your early draw. It helps you get to your cards and your big vampires. 1 Sign of Opulence. Whenever she is like the other Scion. But her ability triggers when a vampire you control or she dies. You get a treasure token. Really good. Helps you mana ramp. You can also pay 1 red and sack 2 artifacts. So your treasures you create off of her or your blood tokens. And then you exile the top card of your library and you may play that card this turn. So another pseudo card draw card. Really good. Another card I wasn't even playing before, but I was reading it and I was like, hey, we could slot it in. Good budget card. This says when he enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, he deals X damage up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of vampires you control. So basically, as long as you've dealt 1 damage, which you don't even have to deal combat damage, you're dealing essentially, usually it's about 3 at least, which is really good. Then we're running the only 1 drop in the deck, creature-wise, Valderon Epicure. When she comes in, deal 1 damage to all opponents, create a blood token. So it helps you get early blood tokens. The 3 Weird Sisters is just the showcase for Annika Dominati. Flyer 1/3. You choose 1 at the beginning of combat on your turn that has not been chosen yet. Each player sacks a creature. You draw a card and lose a life, or transform her. So a lot of times you don't want to bring her in tapped and attacking. She's more of your utility. You just play her for her mana cost. Her transformed, go ahead and flip her around here, is Fiends of Darkest Night, which the art on this is beautiful. So it is a 3/4 flying Death Touch lifelink. You can pay 1 a black and a black, and each creature you control with flying, Death Touch, and or lifelink gets 1/0 until end of turn. So pumps up basically everything in this deck, because almost everything in the deck has that keyword, so just a fantastic card. And then this, Drana, Liberator of Malakir, which I just picked up in my local card shop not too long ago. Really good card, really cheap at the moment. It has flying and first strike. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 creature counter on each attacking creature. So it helps pump up your field. This was a budget put in for the cards they removed. Viscera Seer. Everybody knows what this does because it's an aristocrat staple. Sack a creature, scry one. Helps you get to your combo pieces. Brought this in as a budget piece. When she enters the battlefield, create a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you gain 1 life. So a lot of times you do not have a lot of life gain in this deck. So it helps you create a blood token and gives you some life. So I figured why not give it a try. Another card I slotted in was Dominating Vampire. When she enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of vampires you control until end of turn. Untap it and it gets haste. So you want to just late game, you have 5-6 vampires on field. Take the best 5-6 drop on the field. Sanctum Seeker. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Adds up really quick when you start swarming the field. And he is another, like I said, another life gain card you have there. This card probably gonna be one of the first cards to come out when we get the next $50 next week, but it's okay for now. It has lifelink, so another card that gives you life, which isn't terrible. Lifelink's always good, and whenever a creature an opponent controlled dies, you gain 1 life and create a blood token. So it generates blood tokens and gets you life. And then moving on to the big vampires, which is the fun part of the deck, we have Crossway Troublemakers. Just a bunch of vampires causing trouble at that crossroads. Wouldn't want to be at this crossroads. It basically gives your attacking vampires Death Touch lifelink, and whenever a vampire you control dies, you pay 2 life and you draw a card. So it's draw power, and it makes your opponent not want to block anything. So mainly the one you don't want them to block is obviously Strefan, because you want him to stay alive. Get as many big guys out as you can. One of the best cards in the deck that's only like 40 cents is Olivia's Attendance. It's got Menace, and whenever she deals combat damage, you create that many blood tokens. So she has 6 power, she deals 6 damage, you get 6 blood tokens. And you can pay 2 in a red, and she deals 1 damage to any target. So you get a free blood token off that. Really good. And really cool card. Love the art on this one. You could probably build a commander around this card itself. Drona the Last Blood Chief, flying, and whenever she attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard, and you return the chosen card to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it, and it's a vampire in addition to its other types. So really cool. It's just really good. And then we have Markov Enforcer. It's a pseudo removal spell. So whenever she or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, you can have her fight up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. And whenever a creature is dealt damage by Markov Enforcer, this turn dies, you create a blood token. So really cool. You're guaranteed 1 blood token usually when this comes into the field. So yeah, you cheat it out, get another blood token. So she's already paid for half of the cost of getting her out with Strefan. Then Malakir Blood Witch, had taken her out, threw her back in. Because as you saw, we had to take out a lot of cards. She has flying and protection from white, so hopefully we can play some white opponents our first week. Not race-wise, but colors of their deck. When Malakir Blood Witch enters the battlefield, each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control, and you gain life equal to that. So as you can see, a lot of the cards I did end up slotting in, there was not a lot of life gain in the deck before. Now there's like a small life gain theme, which is kind of cool. it's interesting, like the themes that come out when you slot in a lot of cards that you didn't have before. Patron of the Vein, one of the best cards in the deck. It's a flyer. And when he enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls. So, kill their best thing. Really good. And whenever a creature and opponent controls dies, exile it and put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. So buffs your entire board. It's a removal. You really can't ask for much more. And then we have Necropolis Regent. It's flying, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many 1/1 counters on it. So this is what helps grow the power of your field, and it's one of your win conditions. Helps you get that combat damage. You can even pump Strefan up. You swing with him once and hit, he's now 6. Swing with him again and hit, he's now 9. So you're really just, if you swing with him 3 times, you're basically killing someone with commander damage. Then Bloodline Necromancer, lifelink. Whenever he enters the battlefield, return something from the graveyard that's a vampire or a wizard to the battlefield. It's really good. Graveyard recursion. Really nice. Champion of the Dusk. Whenever he enters the battlefield, draw X cards and lose X life, where it's the number of vampires you control. So usually it's at least 2 or 3. So it's really good for what it does. It's 5 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, and it's a 4/4. So really not bad. And then one of the best ramp and cards in the deck, or pseudo ramp, is Nirkana Revenant. It's like an $8 card. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional swamp, and you can pay a swamp. Nirkana Revenant gets 1/1 until end of turn. So really good. Just helps you get out your big creatures if they keep killing Strefan. Butcher of Malakir, another good one. Flying, whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. And like I said, there's themes that come up that like you didn't have before. So with the Viscera Seer coming in, really combos nicely with the Butcher of Malakir. So if you can get them in your opening hand, it's a nice little combo you have going. And then Blood Lord of Vazgoth. I had slotted this out before because you don't want to bring it in with Strefan, and it already costs 5. But it's not a terrible card. It's still pretty good. It's Bloodthirst 3, so if you dealt damage this turn, it enters the field with 3 1/1 counters on it, and it's got flying. And then whenever you cast a vampire creature spell, it gains Bloodthirst 3. So we're pretty good. Not bad, but make sure you deal the damage before you bring them in. Moving, that's all the creatures. Heavy creature count. It is a creature-based deck, so moving on to enchantments. Get up her Aether Grid. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. If your opponent has like pesky 1/1s that do something, get rid of them. If not, just deal them a damage. Your blood tokens, a lot of times you're not cycling them, you're just using them for Strefan, so you don't mind if they're tapped. Then Faith of the Devoted. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So normally, like, people would say, "Oh yeah, you really don't use the cycling part of this card." One of my lands does have cycling, so just another combo that comes up. Molten Echoes, a budget bomb in the deck. When it enters the field, you use creature types, so obviously vampires. And whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield, you create a token that's a copy of it. It gains haste, and then it gets exiled at the end step. So you're getting 2 big vampires when you bring in the 1 with Strefan. And then for sorceries, Damnable Pact, a draw spell for 2 black and X. And target player draws X cards and loses X life. If you are like really behind and you're trying to gain some favor at the table, maybe try not to die because you got like land screwed. You're like, hey, I'll give you 4 cards. Don't kill me. Night's Whisper, a little bit cheaper draw spell. Draw 2, lose 2. Pretty good. One of the more expensive draw spells, Pact of the Serpent, but one of the better ones. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life. where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type, and it only costs 3. So really good. Usually you'll at least get 3 out of it. Slotted this back in. 4 mana, I paid 3 life, draw 3. It's like, it's kind of subpar, but we're on a budget, so it's not bad for card draw. And then for graveyard recursion, we have Edgar's Awakening, kind of overcosted at 5, but you gotta look at the madness cost. It says return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield, but when you discard Edgar's Awakening, you can pay black, and when you do, return that creature card from the graveyard to your hand. So a lot of times you're just doing it with the blood token effect to get a creature back to your hand. So Strefan dies too many times, let him go to the grave, get him back. Patriarch's Bidding, one of the best cards in the deck. They board wipe you. Each player chooses a creature type, returns all creatures of that type to the battlefield. So you get all your vampires back. Olivia's Wrath, board wipe. Each non-vampire creature gets -X to win a turn where X is the number of vampires you control. So it's a one-sided, or it's not one-sided, but protects your creatures because they're all vampires. Board wipe in Vandal Blast, destroy target artifact, or you could overload to destroy them all. Another board wipe, Blasphemous Act. Usually it's doesn't cost it, only costs a red or red and 1. Deals 13 to each creature. And then for like single target removal, Feed the Swarm, destroy target creature, or enchantment, and opponent controls, and you lose life equal to its cost. Alison's Judgment deals 2 damage divided as you choose. If you do it for its madness cost, you pay X into it in red, and you deal X damage divided among 2 targets. So if you draw a late game, deal a bunch of damage. Magma Quake, board wipe, I slotted in 2 damage and X. Magma Quake deals X to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. All your creatures mainly have flying, so helps you. Dark Ritual, amazing card, helps you get Strefan out like turn 2. It's crazy. Just hope they don't have the single target removal. If they don't, you just pop off from there. Rakdos Charm, choose 1, exile a graveyard, destroy an artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. You don't even mind if it deals the damage to you because you get the blood tokens. So Hurl Through Hell, pretty cool card. You exile target creature until the end of your next turn. You may cast it, and your mana taps for whatever color it costs for it, basically. Bedevil, destroy target artifact or creature or planeswalker. Chaos Warp, shuffle it in the library. Reveal the top card if it's a permanent. Put it on the battlefield. Everybody knows what that does. Bleed Dry, -13, -13. Here's Downfall, destroy a creature, planeswalker. A lot of single target removal in this deck. Destroy target creature and you lose 2 life. Really cheap, and it's an instant, really good. Murder slotted this in because we had the space when we took out the cards. It's 3 cost destroy at instant speed a creature. And then for our artifacts, Mana Ramp, everybody knows what these do. The Chalice, if you don't know, you pay into it, multi-kicker 2. For every 2 you pay into it, it gets a charge counter, and you add a colorless for each charge counter. The Rakdos Signet, Mirror of the Forebears. You choose a creature type when it enters. Pay 1 until end of turn. Mirror of the Forebears begins with a copy of target creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition to that creature type. Just make sure if you do a legendary, it's gonna die. So you don't have that many legendaries, especially right now when it's budget. So you really don't have to worry about it. You can take it out if you're running like an expensive build. Swiftfoot Boots, everybody knows what that does. Belby's Portal, really, really good card. This is like a backup commander basically for you if they kill Strefan a ton of times. Choose a creature type, pay 3, tap it, put a creature card of the chosen type from hand into play. Mana Rock that says Add one mana of any color. Each opponent loses a life, and not ever going to happen usually, but if each player has 10 or less life, you transform it, and it's got flying, death touch, and when it attacks, each opponent loses 3 life. It's a 1/4. Never have had it happen in 25 plus games of playing the deck. Sanguine Statuette. When it enters, create a blood token. Whenever you sack a blood token, you can have it become a 3/3 with haste to end the turn. Icon of Ancestry, it gives your vampires 1/1. Pay 3, tap it, look at top 3. Add a vampire rest skill on the bottom of your library in a random order. Glass Cask Heart, really interesting for the last effect that I've never gotten off, but I really want to. Whenever one or more vampires attack, create a blood token. Pay 1 life, create a 1/1 white and black vampire with lifelink. Pay 2 black and tap, sack it, and 13 blood tokens. Each opponent loses 13 and you gain 13. So you could just kill people with that last one if you ever get it off. Alchemist's Archive. This got infinitely better when I slotted in the budget because, like I said, that life gain theme that came up. Because this says whenever you would gain life, you gain twice that much, and whenever you would draw a card, you draw 2 instead. And then all we have left is the lands. We'll go over the effect lands first. The only expensive land, because we tried, well, 2. One of the only expensive lands, include a courtyard, choose a creature type, add colorless, or add a color for the creature of the chosen type. Command Tower, Border and Estate, kind of has the same effect as Secluded Courtyard, I believe. But you pay 1 life and add 1 mana of any color, but only to cast a vampire. And then you can pay 5 and rest it, create a blood token, but it costs 1 less to activate for each vampire. So it helps you create blood tokens, taps for colorless, but also deals you damage to create more blood tokens with Strefan. Path of Ancestry, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Pretty good. Pajuka Bog, everybody knows what that does. Gyre Chantarium, utility land slot. Pay 2 and tap, each player draws a card and discards a card. So cycling. Exotic Orchard. Unclaimed Territory. High Market, really good in Aristocrats decks. Hagra Mauling, it's a utility land that flips, or flip land I should say. The 4 cost is a removal that costs 1 less to cast and opponent controls no basics. You destroy a creature. And the art's really cool. I like that, the hollow one too. Leech, and then we play lands that deal us damage, get an extra blood token with Strefan. Leechering Swamp, Romap Ruins, Tomb of Rami. You can make Rami, which is kind of cool if you want to meme on people. If Near Deadlands, this really old Cabal Pit, which looks cool that I picked up. And then the other expensive land I was talking about, Haunted Ridge. I believe this is the etched version. Yeah, it's the etched version. Yeah, $6. Kind of took up a good chunk of my budget for the deck. These are all lands that tap for 2 colors. Smoldering Marsh, Tainted Peak, Canyon Slow, has the cycling I was talking about earlier in the profile. Rakdos Guildgate, Temple of Malice, Bloodfell Caves, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 swamps, all from Crimson Vow or double feature. And 4 mountains, all from Crimson Vow. That's the deck profile. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys next video.